Hi, this is Jill Ciminillo, and this week's car du jour is the 2021 Mazda 3. And while this vehicle is not all new for the 2021 model year, there are some things on this vehicle that are worth noting. The biggest thing is the fact that it gets a 2.5-liter turbocharged engine for this model year. So we're going to talk about the engine, and I'm going to talk about some of the unique features that come only on the turbocharged vehicle. We'll talk about seat comfort, and I'm even going to dive into the infotainment system just a little bit. So stay tuned, and let's take a closer look right now. Why don't we dive right into the engine, because basically that's why we're here today. So this is a 2.5-liter turbocharged engine, and Mazda's calling it the Skyactiv G Turbo. It'll deliver 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. But there's a small catch to that. That's with premium fuel. Now, before you get all up in arms about that, let me tell you Mazda did that on purpose, and here's why. You can also use 87 octane, but power goes down just a little bit. With regular fuel, you're going to look at 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. However, and this is the important thing to know, up to about 4,000 RPM, both fuels operate exactly the same. So in most cases, you probably only need regular fuel. If you're a more aggressive driver like I am, and you're regularly above 4,000 RPM, okay, maybe you're gonna wanna fuel with premium fuel. But I really like the fact that Mazda is giving you the option of which one you wanna do depending on your driving characteristics. All right, so before we move on to some of the other features, there are a couple of other things you need to know about this vehicle with this engine. First, you will only be able to get it mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. I know you manual enthusiasts out there are going wah-wah right now, but it's a pretty good transmission, so don't count it out just yet. The other thing is this engine will be available in both the sedan and hatchback. We happen to be driving the sedan right now. And then the third thing you should know about this engine is it will only be available on vehicles with all-wheel drive. So before we go inside the vehicle and look at some of the turbo-only features that are available on the Mazda 3, I feel like I have to point out that I know that it's relatively uncouth for me to do a car review with a salty vehicle. But I'm going to tell you, I did that on purpose. And that's because I've been throwing some error codes in this vehicle while I was driving it during the test week. We've been completely dumped on with snow, and inclement weather does not do well with safety sensors. And if you do not keep them clean, you cannot use some of the really cool tech that's available on this car. So I just wanted to point out that you should probably wipe them down occasionally if you aren't able to get to a car wash. And that includes the sensors as well as this very big radar sensor right here and your camera. So take a cloth and wipe everything down, and that will keep your safety systems working properly. It's very important, especially in the cold, salty, icky, snowy, rainy, inclement weather climates. They're on the front, they're on the back. Bring a cloth, wipe them down. So one more thing I want to move on before I leave my winter driving PSA is I want to point out you have to use the correct washer fluid in the winter. There's a lot of different fluids out there. There's some with de-icer in it. There's, stuff that's formulated for 40 degrees below zero. Use that. Because there's one small problem with this vehicle, and that's the fact that the windshield washer fluid comes up through the windshield wipers, and there's a nozzle on the windshield wipers that shoots out the fluid. When it's really cold outside, I don't think the fluid itself is freezing, but the nozzle is freezing, and when it's really cold before the vehicle is warmed up, you're not going to be able to wash your windshield with the fluid. So, one, make sure you're using the right fluid, and two, make sure you're pre-warming your vehicle so that if you need it when you're driving on the highway, it'll work. Now I want to dig into some of the features on the turbocharged Mazda 3 that make this different from the non-turbo version. So let's start with some of the exterior features. So the first thing you're going to notice is that there is turbo badging on the rear of the vehicle. Now, aesthetically, the other thing you're going to notice are the black capped 18-inch alloy wheels, the black-tipped side mirrors that are also heated, and by the way, that makes a lot of sense because this is an all-wheel drive only vehicle. And the other thing you're going to notice is that the exhaust tips are a little bit larger. So overall, makes this vehicle look a little bit more sporty, as it should, because hashtag turbocharged engine. Now, because the turbocharged model is supposed to be a more premium model, and yes, it is more expensive, we'll get to that in a second, there are going to be more premium up-level features on the interior as well. And these are features that you will not find on the non-turbo model at all. Not even as an option, not even as a package. So let's dig into that a little bit. First off, there are some chrome accents on the interior that make this look a little more up-level and elegant. Second, you've got the frameless rear view mirror. Again, elegant and auto dimming, so also functional. My favorite feature that is going to be on this vehicle that is not going to be on the non-turbo model, and by the way, this is probably reason enough alone to buy this over a non-turbo, even if you don't care about the engine, heated steering wheel. Finally, there are 3 tech features that are on the turbocharged models that you will not find on the non-turbo Mazda 3. So first, this vehicle has traffic jam assist, and basically this is a lane keeping system that will help assist you stay in your lane in stop and go traffic. It only operates up to 40 miles per hour, but it does a really good job with adaptive cruise control, modulating your speed and keeping you in your lane, thereby reducing some driver fatigue when you're stuck in rush hour. Also, this vehicle is equipped with automatic reverse braking. And this is a feature that we've started to see on a lot of vehicles, and frankly, hopefully we never have to test it, but the gist of it is, if you're backing out of your spot and somebody is coming at you in your blind spot, or if somebody is walking behind you and you don't see them and you don't stop, the vehicle will apply the brakes for you. Finally, the last thing on this vehicle that you will not find on the non-turbo Mazda 3 is going to be a 360-degree around view camera. Gives you a really good view of what is around you when you are in tight parking spaces, pulling in forward, backing out, and just generally giving you a good view. Frankly, I found it super helpful this week in Chicago as I'm trying to maneuver around the snowdrifts in my alley. At this point, you're probably saying, show me the money. How much does all this cost? And well, I'm going to tell you, this isn't necessarily one of Mazda's cheaper vehicles, especially when you're looking at a compact sedan. However, I'm going to point out there's a lot of good stuff on this vehicle for the price. So, to keep perspective, the base Mazda 3 sedan starts at just more than $20,000. To go up to the 2.5 liter turbocharged Skyactiv G engine in a base trim, you're going to have to go up to $30,500. That's the base price of the turbocharged model. However, I would like to point out again, this has standard all-wheel drive as well as some features you are not going to find on the regular non-turbo model. And if you look at that non-turbo model, the top tier trim with all-wheel drive is just under $30,000. So I don't think the cost difference is that much at the end of the day. Now, if you want to go all in for the Premium Plus trim, which I'd strongly recommend because some of those features that are available are only available on that trim, 360-degree camera, I'm talking about you, it's just $2,000 more. So for $32,600, you can get the Premium Plus trim, all in, all the cool stuff. That's all she wrote. At this point in my review, I typically talk about seat comfort. So I want to do that, and I'm going to be brief about it because basically the seats are comfortable. I really like the driver's seat. As a petite female, it fits me really well, and I've had my husband in the passenger seat, and he's not a petite female. He's about 190 pounds and 5'8", so more on the average male side of things. And he also commented that the seats are really comfortable. So I think this works well for a wide range of passengers and drivers, and I feel really good in the driving position because I'm not sitting on top of the steering wheel and I have really good visibility out of all the windows. So I really like the driver's seat, really like the driver's position, and I feel like the seats themselves are comfortable. They are definitely on the firm side of things, but there's still a little bounce, and there's some really good support at my tailbone, and there's pretty good lumbar support as well. All right, so there is also a good amount of, well, not here, but in this seat right here and in this seat right here, there's also a good amount of cushion. Now, this thing right here is as hard as a rock, so unless you want to torture a younger sibling, I wouldn't plan on putting anybody here, because in addition to having a really hard seat, there is the nice little bump back here. So anybody who's going to sit back here is literally going to be sitting kind of with their knees in the chest. So not recommended. But behind my seating position, there's a good amount of leg room. Obviously, I'm in a far forward position, so that's to be expected. But this seat is adjusted for my husband. And even when I come over here, I probably have 4 or 5 inches between my knees and the back of the seat, which is also tilted back a little bit. And my feet have plenty of room to wiggle around and maneuver. So I think this is a decent seat for your average sized adult, in addition to children. Just try not to put them there, please. I speak for youngest children everywhere. Please don't do that. But one of the things I want to point out while I'm sitting back here is there are no amenities back here. So for this being a more premium upscale up-level vehicle, there are no heated seats, there are no USB charge ports, there are no sunshades, there is no nothing back here. So it's just a seat. Perhaps not meant for a family road trip, but certainly accommodating for your occasional rear seat passenger. If you follow me in social media, you know that I have an alter ego, and that is Girl in the Trunk, because I really like to talk about trunk space in vehicles. And I'm 1.5 cubic feet of cargo volume, so I usually use myself as a little bit of a reference so that you can see exactly what is going to fit back here. This trunk in the Mazda3 is 13.2 cubic feet of cargo volume, and I think that is really decent for a compact sedan. So definitely fit 4 or 5 rollerboards back here, as well as probably 2 or 3, maybe even 4 sets of golf clubs. But what does that look like? I feel kind of bad because my boots are a little bit dirty, but here my legs are all the way extended. I will point out the opening isn't super wide, so if you are trying to put a big package back here, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. It's not going to work really well. But there are these pulls right here that release the seat. So you can release the seats on either side, and then if you needed to push something longer through, you wouldn't even have to open the back seat doors to put the seats down. You can just push it right through. The other thing, while I'm sitting back here, that I would like to point out is there is a trunk release back here. By law, every car has to include one of these, and let's see how it actually works. All right, it's completely closed. Whoop! That was really easy. So, glad to point out the trunk release in the Mazda3 sedan actually works. So, in addition to having some good space back here, it's pretty safe for those just in case moments that I hope you will never have to experience. All right, so I do want to spend a brief moment talking about the infotainment system in the Mazda3, because whenever you talk about an infotainment system in a Mazda vehicle, people tend to get a little bit cranky, and frankly, I don't think they should. I do have another video in this channel which is an in-depth interview with Dave Coleman, who is the manager of vehicle dynamics for Mazda USA, and he does a complete deep dive in the infotainment system of the Mazda CX-30, but it's going to be the same here. But I just wanted to kind of interject with a brief moment here to tell you, set up your favorites and your life will become a lot easier. So you've got these items around the wheel here, and if you go into your music, okay, so it's brought up XM radio here, and here's the thing, if you turn the dial while you're in the audio, it pulls up your favorites, and it's really easy to just switch between stations. So it behooves you to set up your favorites to make it easier to scroll through your different preferences in terms of radio. Now, in order to do that, you do have to go through a little bit of hoop jumping. So you press this button here, the menu button, to go into your channel list, and you're also going to have to do this if you want to channel surf outside of your favorites. And then you select an item you would like to make your favorite, you add the channel, and then you press this little star button there. It says new favorite added. And then the next time you twirl your dial, the coffee house station that I just set is now in my favorites. So strongly recommend you go through and you set up all of your favorites, and it makes the whole audio portion of it a little bit easier. Now you can easily go home, go to your navigation, and you've got a nice little back button as well to scroll through your settings and information. I've been in a lot of Mazdas recently, and while I have previously complained about this system, I'm going to say I'm starting to get used to it. Set up your favorites, and you probably will too. So before I sign off for this week, I want to leave you with a couple of parting thoughts, not only about this vehicle specifically, but Mazda in general. And as I've been posting about the Mazda 3 on my social media channels this week, people have been commenting that this is a pointless vehicle and it's not reliable. And so what I want to say to that is no and no, 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 because the Mazda 3 actually gets a top safety pick plus from the IIHS, and this is a very coveted award. Very few people get them, and Mazda 3 has it. Additionally, in terms of reliability, I'd like to point out that Mazda, the brand as a whole, is the number one brand, I have to repeat that, on Consumer Reports' predicted reliability study. So not only is this safe, but it is also reliable, and it's really fun to drive. So I like the Mazda 3. I really like the 2021 Mazda 3 with the turbocharged engine, and I think this is a great daily driver for anyone who needs a compact sedan. So if you haven't been looking at Mazda lately, shame on you. Go do that. But at any rate, thank you for watching this week and crawling around with me in the trunk of the Mazda 3. I hope that you have a great week, and I'll see you again on this channel next week with a new car du jour. Let's see if I can do that one more time. So at this point, I would normally climb through this opening here to go to the back seat, but because my boots are dirty and I'm going to have pity on the people who clean these vehicles, I'm going to get out and I'm going to come back in and we'll take a look at the back seat. In the Mazda CX-30, and he's the vehicle line okay, let's try this again. With Dave Coleman, who is the Vehicle Dynamics Director, Dynamics, Manager of Vehicle Dynamics, okay. Before I sign off for good for this week, yeah, that engine is just awesome.